Americans love scenery. We want to see it all, from one coast to the next, Mount Rushmore down to the Everglades. So hop into a Chevy Malibu and take the scenic route. It's the car you knew America could build. There's a place where people count on friendships they can trace back generations, where they can count on the same stool at the coffee shop waiting for them every morning. This place is called Glen Ellen, and you can find it in every bottle of Glen Ellen wine. This is craft brewed Herman Joseph's, the smoothest, easiest drinking specialty beer in the entire solar system. And I believe you'll find drinkable in the dictionary right after don't order a beer you can't drink. Zoingo! Boingo! The freestyle pogo with more boing, more bounce. Bounce further, bounce higher with Zoingo Boingo. To see what makes Arrowhead Mountain Spring water different from those other waters, you have to go back to the source. And with Arrowhead, that means going back a little farther and longer than most. Between security challenged and security strengthened, there's one important word: how. And it is the how that makes all the difference to our nation and our world. Lockheed Martin. We never forget who we're working for. What makes Kraft Singles so good? 2 out of every 3 kids don't get the recommended amount of calcium. But with Kraft Singles, they get a good source of calcium and the taste they love. Kraft Singles. Magic every single time. Throw boring overboard with a new real meal from Long John Silver's. A meal worthy of a plate, just $4.99. Only at Long John Silver's. We may not all be geniuses, but we can all do something smart. Introducing the Hyundai 199 Sonata Lease. It's a smart deal on a really smart car.
In the old days, a man could just get sick and die, Now, they have to wage a battle. And the reason I don't like it is because in the old days, they go, hey, that old man died. Now, they go, hey, he lost his battle. That's no way to end your life, What a loser that guy was. Last thing he did was lose. And I'm pretty sure, I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure if the cancer dies, if you die, the cancer also dies at exactly the same time. So that, to me, is not a loss, that's a draw. That's you know what I mean?
Good morning. It's Thursday, Jordan Peterson Thursday, October the 23rd, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have Varney and Company, motivation, meditation, and Jordan Peterson. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you, Maria. Then Stu.
Even the LNG, to your point. Well, because President Biden stopped those LNG exports. Excuse me. Mark Tepper, a lot on your plate today.
A lot, and we got another earnings report from a major airline, American Airlines, today. And one of my biggest macro takeaways from this earnings season so far is that there is a real bifurcation of consumers right now. Specifically, as you look at the airlines, where are they really driving revenues and profits? From premium seating and from international travel, which is typically geared towards the higher income consumer, while the lower income consumers have been struggling. But I think we're at an inflection point. Gas prices just reached their lowest level during the Trump 2.0 era. And we're expecting roughly $150 billion of consumer stimulus in the first quarter due to tax refunds from the One Big Beautiful Bill. So I think that tide is turning. I like consumer discretionary going forward.
And do you like airlines? Dare I ask?
No, I do not like airlines. I will go elsewhere.
Yeah, well, it's certainly going to be an interesting day at the office, both from the government side of things. I mean, I don't know. Having Congressman Ruley say Thanksgiving kind of sent chills down my spine.
Yeah.
Here we go. Ashley Davis, Mark Tepper, guys, thank you. Varney and Company is up right now. Stuart, good morning.
All right, good morning, Cheryl. Good morning, everyone. Oh, there's a lot going on. Tesla down. Quantum computing stocks way up. Trump builds a bigger, better ballroom, and the haters hate it. A lot to go at, but we're going to start with this. The president has had enough of Putin's stalling tactics. He has imposed sanctions on Russia's two big oil companies. The president wants a ceasefire, freezing the front lines where they are now. The oil sales sanctions won't come off until there's an agreement. The immediate result of this, it has some market impact. Oil prices on the move, going up $3 a barrel higher, $61 per barrel. That means the falling gas prices, well, they'll stop falling probably. Now, elsewhere on the market, we've got a little red ink for stocks in the early going. Dow's down 60, Nasdaq's down 26. Now look at Tesla. Not much product innovation. Not much forward guidance and a narrower profit margin. That stock is down $16. That's 3.8%. Now look at this bunch of stocks. IonQ, Rigetti Computing, D-Wave Quantum, and Quantum Computing Inc. The government may buy an equity stake in them, just like in Intel, and they're all up significantly in percentage terms. Look at that. D-Wave up 17%. Bitcoin, not much going on there. $109,000 per coin as we speak. Gold, well, it's holding above $4,000 an ounce, reaching $41.44, up a bit today. Interest rates, the 10-year Treasury yields 3.98, the 2-year coming in at 3.47 right now. All right, on the show today, the president announced plans for a much bigger ballroom. It's going to seat 1,000. It's going to cost $300 million. His opponents are aghast. They say tearing down the East Wing is destroying history, and they don't like his taste. He likes gold, and he likes big. More on that coming up. Zoran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, and Curtis Sliwa, they took the stage for the final debate of the New York mayoral election last night. Nothing that was said is likely to change the result. That is, Mamdani wins Catholic Church since 1534. That's history. And here's a developing story. Miami Heat player Terry Rozier and Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups, they've been arrested as part of a widespread FBI investigation into illegal sports betting. There's going to be a news conference on that at 10 o'clock this morning. We're going to bring you the headlines. What a show. This Thursday, October the 23rd, 2025.
And that was Maria and Stu. Nonprofit news now. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now to Bill O'Reilly for his Talking Points memo. And he's going to demonstrate for us arbitrary claims.
So that leads us to the Talking Points memo. So this media change is happening very rapidly. And the reason that most Americans aren't aware of it is because the media will not report on itself. All right? So to them, everybody's doing great because they want to make money. They want your money. They want the sponsors to go in. They want all that. Let me give you some facts. CBS News is in complete uproar. So you'll know that Skydance, a corporation, that is fairly conservative bought Paramount, which owned CBS, and that includes CBS News. CBS News was almost 100% liberal just 2 months ago. 100% down the line liberal from CBS News. They never admit it, but they were. I know them all. Now, the executives at Skydance, run by Larry Ellison's son, all right, are changing. And that will continue. Now, I don't know if they're ever going to be fair or they're ever going to, I don't know any of that. But they stopped banishing non-liberal voices, which is a good thing, except for Jane Pauley on his Sunday morning program, which is an absolute scandal, that program. 60 Minutes is being revamped. I don't know how long, much longer Scott Pelley can survive, but they're going after it. All right, NBC fired MSNBC. Do you realize that? So Comcast, which owns NBC, fired MSNBC. We don't want you anymore. And now a company named Versant, I don't even know what this company is, Versant, they run MS Now. Okay, it's not MSNBC any longer, it's MS Now. Because NBC fired the network because it was embarrassing and they weren't making very much money from it. All right, I don't expect any changes there. They're going to go down with the ship, the progressive ship. So no changes. They'll be there. They have no influence. CNN announced yesterday, this is fascinating, just yesterday, Warner Brothers Discovery, that's a huge corporation, entertainment corporation. They own CNN. And they own Turner Classic Movies. I was just watching a horror movie on there last night. Discovery Channel, HBO, and others. Okay? So Warner Brothers Discovery owns all that. They want to sell. They want out. And they'll sell. Maybe not all of their properties, but CNN is a goner. Because again, going down, 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 down. Somebody will buy it. And believe me, those people over there, they're all gone. I don't know if there's one that they'll keep. Because there's nobody over there that's making any money for them. No big stars. Nobody has any traction at all. In the morning, CNN's ratings are lower than a lot of local stations. It's hard to believe. It's a national network. So CNN, big changes. ABC, Disney, they're under a lot of fire, as you know. We went over it and over and over it. The View, George Stephanopoulos, Jimmy Kimmel, on and on and on. But I don't expect too many changes at Disney. They make all their money at the theme parks, and their prices are outrageous. And the kids want to go, so the parents take. I understand it all. So I don't think that the Disney Corporation is going to change their point of view, and their point of view is very, very progressive left. I could be wrong. I hope I am. I hope they get a little more fair over there. But I'm not optimistic. Fox News is now 93% conservative. That means almost everyone who watches FNC leans right or is a conservative or is MAGA. Okay? It's also very Trump dependent. And the president knows that. He sticks it to Fox News all the time. Like, you know, when they criticize him, he goes, what do you criticize me? I'm major network. Now, when I was at Fox more than 20 years, it was 60% conservative. Now, 93%.
Okay, so that's about good enough. I think we can get the point there. Everything he's just told you and me, he claims are facts. But they're not. They're all arbitrary claims. He is asking me and you to take his word for it. Okay, anybody comes to you and says, I will tell you the facts. They're not going to tell you the facts. They're going to go ahead and make arbitrary claims. Which means they're asking you to take their word for it. And that's what he's doing. He wants us to take his word for it that he's giving us facts. He doesn't even cite his sources. 93% of this, 60% there. He draws conclusions, yet he says he's given us facts. He says it's chaos over at CNN or CBS or wherever. Saying that is drawing a conclusion. Okay? All of these things that he's saying, okay, over at CNN, they're going to be bought or they're going to be sold or they're out and everybody there is going to be out of a job. He doesn't cite his sources. So these are, again, arbitrary claims. I refuse to be fooled by this. They're simply arbitrary claims because there's a lot of bullies on the right that will do this. Leo Terrell is famous for doing that. He had a radio show and facts, just the facts. But he doesn't realize, and he's a lawyer, that facts are agreed upon. Sources are agreed upon. Like I said, when we used to get, as kids, get into arguments, and we wanted to settle the argument, we would agree on somebody that would settle the argument. We'd say, well, let's go talk to Miss Edgar, and whatever she says goes. Okay, fine. So then we go to Miss Edgar, and she settles the argument. And you can do it as adults, too. You can say, okay, we got a disagreement. Let's call the library. Let's check Google. Let's check Wikipedia. And whatever Wikipedia says goes. You agree? Then you've come to terms. That's the only way when you can have facts is when both sides come to terms. So again, Bill O'Reilly claiming to have the facts. We don't do what was doctrinaire doctrine or something like that, or doctrinaire stuff. No. We're better than that. We give the facts. No, you don't. You just make arbitrary claims demanding that your audience take your word for it. So when you hear people that are doing things like what he's doing, whether it's your friends, your relatives, or anyone else, beware. They're simply making an arbitrary claim and demanding you take their word for it. And you don't have to. Back in a minute. Thank you. A little bit of Varney and Company. I think it's Peter Ducey that is reporting this story.
Mr. President, that you said as recently as yesterday that you still believe that Putin wants to end the war, but then today...
Look, these are tremendous sanctions. These are very big. Those are against their two big oil companies, and we hope that they won't be on for long. We hope that the war will be settled. I think they want peace. I think they both want peace at this point. It's been, it's almost 4 years. You're going into 4 years. And if I were president, it never would have started. But yeah, it's time.
President Trump has also officially, publicly decided not to send Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine to strike targets deep inside Russia. He says the learning curve is too big. It would take 6 months to a year for the Ukrainians to start shooting them, and that means the only way to fire them would be with Americans. He does not want that. And I would just point out, because there's been a lot of talk about this, you can see over my shoulder here, across the lawn on the east side, there is smoke rising, or dust rising, I should say. That is the east wing being demolished as we speak, with this huge project to make room for the...
Well, okay, so then he ruins the story there, because now it's becomes confusing. What's the story about? Is it about the sanctions on Russia? Is it about stopping the war? Or is it about the East Wing being renovated? So, anyways, I wanted to make sure that I remind everybody that the reason that this war started at all is because of Ukraine. The Ukrainians decided that they would rather spend their money on borscht and vodka than on their own defense. There's a story, a rumor, that they had, when the war started in 2022, that Ukraine had like 12 tanks and 6,000 active duty troops. Are you kidding? The Ukrainians know that the Russians have wanted to take them over for a long time, or at least Putin has wanted to take them over for a long time. First mistake that they made was listening to Billy Boy Clinton and giving away their nukes to Russia. They gave all of their nuclear weapons to Russia, their enemy. And then now they're surprised that they've been invaded. If they had kept their nuclear weapons, this war never would have started. If they had bothered to pay for their own defense, they bothered to defend themselves, it wouldn't have started either. So, but again, they'd rather spend their money on something else because they believe that everybody else is going to pay for their defense. Everybody else is going to come to their rescue. NATO and the United States of America will come to Ukraine's rescue and provide the money and material necessary for them to defend themselves. And I really don't care if the Russians take over Ukraine. I really don't care. They don't care about themselves. Why should I care about them? Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, a little bit of motivation.
Small daily acts of improvement, when done consistently over time, lead to staggering results.
Some of y'all soft. There's no better word for it. You're soft. You want to be a champion, but you don't want to work like a champion. Show up. A real man in the dark, when nobody's watching, he putting in work.
The heart of a champion is a light switch that's always on. It doesn't go on and off when someone's watching. It's constant.
Every single one of you has an opportunity every single day to make these small daily acts of excellence, optimization, and creativity that will ultimately build a life of greatness. How do you build a great company? It's not by revolution, it's by evolution. How do you build a legendary life? It's about what you do every single day with utter consistency that over time creates mastery.
If you go to the gym and you work out and you come back and you look in the mirror, you will see nothing. And if you go to the gym the next day and you come back and you look in the mirror, you will see nothing. So clearly there's no results, can't be measured, it must not be effective. So we quit. Or if you fundamentally believe that this is the right course of action and you stick with it, I'm not exactly sure what day, but I know you'll start getting into shape.
You will never pick up any momentum because you keep doing something different every single day. You have to find a routine and stick with it. If you hit a tree 1,000 times in 1,000 different spots, there's no guarantee it's going to fall. But if you hit a tree 1,000 times in that same exact spot, it's going to come to the ground. Your problem is you did hit it 1,000 times, but in 1,000 different places. Stop trying to be deep. I need you to do the exact same thing every single day for the next 10, 15, 20 years and watch that tree come down. Every single day, stick with it. Don't rush the process. Trust the process. Don't rush the process. Trust the process. Don't rush the process. Trust the process. Get that one thing you're good at. Get that one thing you're passionate at and stick with it. Stop starting and stopping and starting and stopping and starting and stopping. If you master one thing, if you get there, I'm telling you, you can have what you want.
You can screw it up. You can skip a day or two.
Yeah, out of 365 days, you're going to have a bad day or two. But I'm trying to tell you, the strength is in the routine.
What are you supposed to do when you fall off the path like that? What action should you take? Should you sit there and dwell and think about it forever? No. When you fall off the path, what you do is you get right back on the path. The path of responsibility, hard work, and sacrifice. The path of discipline, humility, and ownership that ultimately leads to freedom. You think things are going to just go your way? Well, they're not going to just go your way. You think things are going to just happen for you? Well, they're not just going to happen for you. You got to make them happen.
You do whatever it takes. You have to eat the dream. You have to sleep the dream. You have to dream the dream. You have to see it when nobody else sees it. You have to feel it when it's not tangible. You have to believe it when you cannot see it. You got to be possessed with the dream. And every single day, you got to wake up and put forth effort. And your grind has to match your dream. You can't play as much as you used to play. You can't go where you used to go. You can't do what you used to do. And now you got to push your grind up to match your dream. I need you to pick your grind up. I need you to pick your grind up. There's nothing wrong with your dream. You have a great dream.
but your grind does not affect your dream. You got to build that momentum. Sometimes it ain't about being the most talented. Sometimes it ain't about being the smartest. Sometimes it's not even about working the hardest. Sometimes it's about consistency. Just keep doing it and keep doing it. You keep doing it and never stop. You never give up and never quit. Day after day, play after play, second after second. When you get to a place where you work and you take your work serious and you put some consistency with your work, when you put so much time in, so much effort in, that what happens is your work starts to work for you. The effort that you put forth, the things that you do, because of the work you put in, things just start happening for you. It doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. Stay predictable. Stay consistent. And when you embrace the grind will reward you.
The process of getting better and becoming the best at what it is that you do is painful. It's excruciating. It's hard. It's uncomfortable. And there's a reason why there is the phrase growing pains. Loser.
And that was a little bit of motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now a little meditation. And that was a little bit of meditation. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, from an article called When Horses and Roosters Met Ice by Silvio Canto from the American Thinker. Wait a minute here. Let's get this queued up. There we go.
As I may have told you before, I lived and worked in Mexico City years ago. It was a great experience, and the people were very nice. At the same time, I was introduced to something that happens a lot in rural Mexico. Illegal horse races, rooster fights, and lots of money in play. It's not a national thing, but it does go on in many states. Most Mexicans find it repulsive, but it happens because of the temptation to gamble. A lot of money goes down on Saturday night, as a Mexican friend explained. So, guess what ICE just discovered in rural Idaho? You guessed it. Here is the story. DHS Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs Tricia McLaughlin explained that the ICE raid had dismantled an illegal horse racing, animal fighting, and a gambling enterprise operation in Wilder, Idaho. According to the Idaho Capital Sunday, McLaughlin added that 105 illegal aliens had been arrested. McLaughlin's statement comes as the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, previously announced 5 arrests of people linked to the alleged horse race gambling operation in Wilder called La Catedral Arena, according to the outlet. You can't make this up, but the place is in the business of growing watermelons. Really? Watermelons in Idaho? The story gets even weirder when the ACLU claims that ICE used paramilitary means to arrive at the place. Were they supposed to knock on the door and ask if there was gambling going on in this place? Is the ACLU concerned about what was going on in this arena? Again, most Mexicans find these activities as repulsive as you and I do. So I am not knocking Mexicans. This is just another example of what happens when illegal immigration goes unchecked. P.S. Check out my blog for posts.
No, I'm not going to do that, but thanks anyway. So my reason for playing all of this is that it says nothing. It's an absolutely worthless article because we don't know what he's talking about. Is this an article about horses? Is it about roosters? Is it about ice? Is it about the author's travels in Mexico and living in Mexico City? And how great of an experience it was and how nice the people were? Is it about what victims apparently he thinks the Mexican people are? Because, and then he uses doesn't even put the blame on the American or on the Mexican people for engaging in rooster fights. He says it happens because of a temptation to gamble. Determinism. It's not their fault. They're forced to gamble on roosters because they have a temptation to gamble. Why don't they gamble with dice? Why don't they gamble with cards? So, and again, then the whole article they talk about the ACLU. Is the article about ACLU? Is it about growing watermelons in Idaho? So this article is all over the place, and this is what happens when you can't make up your mind, or perhaps what this is, again, fear-based. He's afraid that he's going to meet with some kind of unfortunate consequences if he goes ahead and writes an article that gets to the point. I don't know. But again, it's worthless because we don't know what it is that he's trying to communicate. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Jordan Peterson.
So your attention, for example, is mediated by unconscious forces. And you know that perfectly well. And this is another Freudian observation. If you're sitting down to study, for example, your conscious intent is to study. But you know perfectly well that all sorts of distraction fantasies are going to enter the theater of your imagination non-stop and annoyingly. And there isn't really a lot you can do about that except maybe wait it out. You'll be sitting there reading and your attention will flicker away. You'll think about, I don't know, maybe you want to watch Jane the Virgin on Netflix or something like that. Or maybe it's time to have a peanut butter sandwich. Or you should get the dust bunnies out from underneath the bed. Or it's time to go outside and have a cigarette. Or maybe it's time for a cup of coffee. Or it's like all these subsystems in you that would like something aren't very happy just to sit there while you read this thing that you're actually bored by. And so they pop up and try to take control of your perceptions and your actions nonstop. Maybe you think, well, this is a stupid course anyways. Why do I have to read this damn paper? And what am I doing in university? And what's the point of life? It's like you can really get going if you're trying to avoid doing your homework. And then you might think, well, what is it in you that's trying to avoid? Because after all, you took the damn course and you told yourself to sit down. Why don't you listen? Well, because you're a mess. That's basically why. You haven't got control over yourself at all. And no more than I have control over this laptop. Okay, so there's the memory function of the unconscious, and there's the dissolutive function. That's an interesting one. The unconscious contains habits, once voluntary, now automatized, and dissociated elements of the personality, which may lead a parasitic existence. That's an interesting one. I would relate that more to procedural memory. So what you've done is practice certain habits, whatever they might be. Let's call them bad habits. And you'd like those things to get under control, but you can't. So maybe when you're speaking, for example, you use like and and you say a lot. And you've practiced that, so you're really good at it. And you'd like to stop it, but you don't get to because you've built that little machine right into your being, right? It's neurologically wired, and it's not under conscious control. And anything you practice becomes that. It becomes part of you, and that's another element of the unconscious, a different part. And then there's a creative part, which is that, you're sitting around and maybe you're trying to write something, or maybe you want to produce a piece of art or a piece of music, or maybe you're just laying in bed dreaming and you have all these weird ideas, and especially in dreams, it's like, where do those things come from? And even more strange, one of the things that's really weird about dreams, and almost impossibly weird, is that you're an observer in the dream. It's like a dream is something that happens to you. Well, you're dreaming it, theoretically. So how is it that you can be an observer? It's almost like you're watching a video game or a movie, but you're producing it, at least in principle, although the psychoanalysts would say, well, no, not exactly. Your ego isn't producing it. Your unconscious is producing it. It's a different thing. It's a different thing. And of course, Jung would say, well, it's deeper than that. The collective unconscious might be producing it. It's in some sense, it isn't you exactly, or it isn't the you that you think of when you think of you. And that's the ego from the Freudian perspective, the you that you identify with. That's the ego. And outside of that is the unconscious, the id. That's more the place of impulses, and you could think about those as the biological subsystems that can derail your thinking, right? And that govern things like hunger and sex and aggression, and your basic instincts is another way of putting it. And it's a reasonable way of thinking about it because these are subsystems that you share with animals. You share them certainly with mammals. You share most of them with reptiles. You share a lot of them with amphibians, and even going all the way down to crustaceans. There's commonality, for example, in the dominance hierarchy circuits. And so these are very, very old things. And the idea that you're in control of them is, well, you're not exactly in control of them. And I would say the less integrated you are, the less you're in control of them, and the more they're in control of you. And that can get really out of hand, like with people who have obsessive compulsive disorder, for example, which seems to be, I would say, the dissolutive elements in some sense of the unconscious, the way that it's portrayed here. Poor people with obsessive compulsive disorder, they can spend half their time doing things that they can't really control, and they have very strong impulses to do them. And it's very hard on them to block them. They'll almost panic if those things are blocked. And then you have people with Tourette's syndrome, that they'll be doing all sorts of weird dances and spouting off obscenities and imitating people without being able to control it. And sometimes a little bit of antipsychotic medication can dampen that down, but it's as if there are these autonomous semi-spirits inside of them that grip control over their behavior and make them do things. And you find that to some degree in your own life, because maybe you've become very attracted to someone, even maybe you don't want to be attracted to the person, and then you find yourself, texting them when you know perfectly well that you should be going to bed, and you're in a grip of something, and you can't control it, and that's all part of the unconscious.
And that was Jordan Peterson. Back in a minute. Thank you. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and reminding you that greed is not conservative.